everyone. Today is March 18th, 2015. We have a finance committee scheduled to start at 7. It is now 7:08. We have an appointment at 7 with Kathy Chabon, so why don't we start right away. Kathy is the treasurer collector for the town. One item that I was told, just to make everyone aware of, the fire department might be doing some training here tonight, so if we hear alarms, we don't have to evacuate.
What if we want to leave? I'm just joking.
Okay, so Kathy, just 1 second, we'll bring up your, does everyone have the newest spreadsheet from Sandy? Sandy had it on a new spreadsheet tonight.
Oh, no. Tonight?
Yes,
Oh,
she
okay.
handed it to you right here.
Oh, okay. Yes, I do.
Okay, so this will go to Kathy's lines. So they are lines. Treasurer, collector salary 29, collector 30, collector clerical 30, 31 is collector expense, and then there's 2 other ones that I missed, right?
There's 21,
21.
24.
Okay. All right, is everybody ready? Okay, so we'll start with 21. Treasurer clerical, it's an increase of $2,534, 4.4%, to a total of $59,760. So this one is steps and an increase of a day.
Pardon me?
Is this one steps?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, they're at the top steps.
No, they're not. Oh, treasurer, I'm sorry. I thought you were starting with collector. Yeah, they're at their top steps. This has to do with the fact that I'm retiring and there'll be a new treasurer collector, and there will be some training required. And Linda Cole, being the assistant treasurer, would be in need of some hours to do that.
Okay, so do you know how many hours and
16, I believe. Am I right,
Well, that's
Sandy?
an elected position. You don't know who's going to get elected.
Well, there's only one person that's pulled any papers thus far,
Oh, okay.
so
so, but this is
Sandy's going to be.
Sandy.
I'm not sure exactly how many hours, I thought it was written in here.
I thought it was 16.
But we did put in some, we don't know who will have the treasurer collector job. We assume because whoever it is will be new in the position, there will be an extra demand on the assistant treasurer, and so we increased her hours by a number of hours, and I don't remember how many, in order to cover,
Yeah.
let's see, let's see.
I think I have it here. Oh, here it is. Training funding is based on 6 hours per week at 16 weeks of coverage.
Said how loud are you, Kathy?
Training funding is based on 6 hours per week at 16 weeks of coverage.
And this is a 1-year expense,
Mm-hmm.
so. So 1-year expense. Does anybody have any questions on this line? Okay. Okay, the next line is line 22, which is the treasurer expense, which is level funded at 65. So So meetings, mileage, dues, fees, office supplies, postage, and equipment. That's what's in this line, so everybody knows. Any questions on this line? Okay. Any comments, Kathy, on this line?
No?
Okay, 23 is tax title treasurer. That's 2,500. It's level funded. You want to just explain what that is? So we have a new member.
There are costs associated with tax title that, I think 2,500's been it for always, hasn't it, Sandy, or for?
That's what we've used.
We've always stayed with that figure. I don't see any need to,
Yeah, I was just looking so that
Increase
Linda
it.
knew what the line was. That's all. Not,
When you put people into tax title, you have to pay advertising
Costs.
and different fees, so it helps to cover the
you
treasurer's
never know when
costs.
what the advertising's, one year it could be, you know, $18.95 per piece, or next year, last year it was 24 something, so you just don't know what that's going to be. But we've so far been okay with level funding that
okay.
over the past 6 years.
You okay? Okay, so line 24 is treasurer, banking, and payroll expenses. This has an increase of $100 up to $6,200.
Well, that one, where is it? Where are we on treasurer's
24, yep.
banking and payroll expense? It's going up to 60. Oh. It's proposed to go up to 62?
Yeah, it's $100.
Well, then Linda Cole was the one that came up with this. I will say, I don't quite understand what she told me. Although we were able to turn money back in for the 2013 and 14 year, I would ask to remain level funded at the 6,500 for next fiscal year.
I think that was your other line.
Well, that was the treasurer expense, okay. I don't know why she wanted to go up $100. I don't know what expense she was referring to.
Okay.
The bank must have given her a different quote.
That's it. That is it. I'm sorry, that's what it was.
Sandy?
Yeah, she talks with the CDS, who does our payroll,
Yep.
and
The
the
bills.
banking fees through that.
Okay. So that's a banking fee increase to pay the employees. $2,400 increase. Okay, that's a contract. Okay, so then we move to line 29. Correct? Did I miss one?
No?
28 is election register, that's
Oh, that's
town
right.
clerk. Yep, so 29 is treasurer collector salary. So this is the,
The current salary.
and yes,
Shouldn't we be budgeting a lower figure, because generally don't we keep them on a lower salary schedule?
They are not on a scale. The job pays a certain salary, and that's what the salary is.
Well, not only the salary is what the town meeting sets it at, but.
Right. Elected officials don't have steps, so.
Oh, they don't have.
Right.
Okay.
so line 29 is level funded. Okay, line 30 is collector clerical. That's $63,224. It's an increase of $3,021. It's a 5% increase.
This would be, there are two possible scenarios, but they're both the same reason. My assistant collector is running for the position. Should she win the election, then she would naturally move to the position of treasurer collector. That means the clerk in our office, or whoever else could be hired, would move into the position of assistant. That person would most likely need training. And if it were the clerk, that's one thing. But if it were someone say my assistant, Pamela Ducey, who's running for it, does not get the position, she is going to have to train whoever comes in, chances are. As far as we know, so far, no one has. It's just there in case. I didn't know how else to approach it, so that they wouldn't be caught short should things not turn out as planned, if you know what I mean.
Sandy?
I don't
We
know.
basically worked off the current staff. Both the current staff have steps.
Yeah.
So this reflects their steps, plus there's an extra day, extra working day this year.
Okay.
So basically, that's what you're looking at.
That's not the training?
I don't think we put in extra training in this one.
Oh, it wasn't? Okay.
I'm not, I don't see it listed anywhere.
Oh, I guess we didn't. Oh, I think I was
Unless you
told,
put in extra hours that I didn't. I believe,
could it have been under collector's expense?
maybe, I don't know.
That might be
So his-
part of that reason. That must be
So
where I put it
here's-
instead of, oh, that all goes for collector's expense, I guess.
That's that line, okay.
They're all under the same line.
This is. So what is why is one at 110?
Days, because they have their step in the middle of the year. So that she's
Okay,
110
okay,
days at her
okay.
lower step, and then 152 at the higher step.
Okay.
So we figure it as a daily rate,
That's what
and then,
Okay. So basically,
So we're budgeting that she doesn't get elected, but if she does, somebody brought in will come in at a lower step, and there'll be a pickup.
and there'll be a little extra in there, so if there are extra hours
Mhm.
needed.
but that doesn't seem right that it's a 5% increase with only, even if two people are getting steps.
Oh, we added 3 floating holidays on one of them. I think that's it. Oh, no, 3 floating holidays on both of them.
Yeah.
So were they not receiving them before?
I don't believe they had them last year. I don't remember.
I don't think we did.
Because it's, the collector's office is not open on Friday.
Yeah.
We will be having holidays on Fridays this year. So they get that holiday pay.
Saturday comes from.
Right, right. So they get that holiday pay, even
Okay.
though the office isn't open.
So you end up with, if they work their regular hours, plus the holiday, we're paying them for more hours than we would normally
Right.
budget for those weeks.
Neither of these positions have 40 hours, right?
Correct.
Right. So it's not a matter of overtime. It's just.
Is it just because of the way that the holidays
Holidays
fall?
fall.
Right. Because the holidays are falling on the weekends.
Is
So,
that every employee? I'm sorry.
so if they fell on a Monday,
That would be part of their work week.
So let's say they work Monday through Thursday.
okay.
Normal work week is Monday through Thursday. If they,
That was perfect.
let's say for the heck of it, they work 8 hours a day, just for example. So a normal work week, Monday through Thursday, it's 8 times 4, 32, done. Monday holiday, 8 hours of holiday pay, 24 hours of regular pay, 32 hours total, done. Friday holiday, 8 times 4, Monday through Thursday, 32, boom. Now you've got a holiday payday on Friday for another 32 divided by 5, 6 and some odd hours. Now you're at 38, but you only budgeted 32.
Right. So we have to cover those hours.
I mean, the alternative is that you reduce the number of hours they work that given week by the amount of their holiday, so that they go home early on Thursday, for instance, at 10 o'clock or something.
And frankly, that doesn't work in our department. It's
There are
tough
some
to do.
departments that do that. So it's not every employee it's not every department who built in those floating holidays. There are some departments who just absorb it. If they're gonna get holiday pay, they work a few less hours during the week, and they can do that.
But we're
in
the
the
most
collector's
trafficked.
office, it's difficult to do. You need your staff.
We
Yeah,
have a
but you
lot
need
of
the window open.
people traffic, yes.
I mean, for instance, my office, we've got 2 people who work full-time, third person's part-time. If she goes home early on that Thursday, big deal, we're still here. But if you've got a part-time staff running the department, you still need somebody there the full day Thursday. We're gonna be open, the town hall will be open that Thursday, the 23rd, anyway. If they all go home, I mean, legally, yeah, we can close, but it's, obviously, someone shows up on the 23rd, they're expecting us to be open.
Okay, so this is just because of the way the fall.
It's just a fluke for this upcoming year.
Okay. So, back okay, so then line 31 is the collector expense line, and that's increased. So the total is $15,958, and the increase is $3,036, and it represents a 23.5% increase, so I guess this is the one.
We're also looking into classes that may be available, where there may be a cost associated with it for potentially 3 people that are new to their positions, potentially, but at least,
So in addition to the $3,000 increase?
oh, no. No, I'm saying that's what the $3,000 increase, and I mean, that's a number that was a guesstimate, easily could be dropped $1,000, I think.
So that, the lines that you have here is $1,000 for meetings, $132 for mileage, $0 for advertising.
But that's another thing. I want to have a little for advertising, something.
Advertising for what?
If we have to, well, I don't know if we're going to be able to get someone to take if there's an open position, we're talking.
That should come out of the other fund.
Yeah, we have
Okay.
we have a recruitment and employment fund separate from everybody else that covers the newspaper.
How much would you say, Charlie, and running an ad for, say, 2 weeks, it runs?
So these days, we just publish in the Halifax Express, I think it's like $35 or $50 each week. It's a lot less expensive than it used to be. But we'd be taking that out of not your budget.
I understand, that's why I'm looking to drop this figure more than that,
But you don't have anything budgeted for advertising.
because we don't need it. Tax title advertising is paid for through the banking under treasurer. And that would be, if it's taken care of out of a fund, which I should have remembered that that's what it was, I haven't done it in a while, then we have no need for in collector.
Okay, so the next line is 190 for dues. That's level, no, it's not level funded, that's increased. But that's, it's level funded.
That's level funded,
Okay.
I believe.
Yep, it
Okay,
is.
so office supplies went up by 2,500.
Yeah, we always go real low on our office supplies. We've done it every year, and who knew we were gonna be in the position we're in right now? So we went up on it a little bit.
So what is the increase in that line?
On office supplies,
I know, but for what office supplies?
whatever's needed for the office. Paper, we buy our paper for printing our bills, envelopes, they go up. I believe they have gone up recently.
Well,
That's in there.
It's more than doubled from last year, though.
But I just explained to you, Gordon, that I'm willing to drop $1,000 off of it. So why don't we talk about that figure instead of the 3,000?
Okay. Well, the only other line in here that you have is postage going up.
Postage does go up. We have many times had to go for a reserve fund transfer for postage. We have a tendency now to do a lot of faxing to people because you get low on postage at the end of the year.
Right, but I guess when you're asking for the $500 increase in postage,
Yes.
it's not because the cost of postage went up. Are you sending out more bills or?
We send out a lot more bills than you would, if you sat down and said, well, there are so many thousand this and that and that. We send a lot more bills than that out. We sometimes get bills back and we have to send them, do some research and then send them to another address. We have expenses on bills. We do.
No, I don't disagree with that, but I guess when you put in the request, I think we're looking for more backup information than just that it is.
Well, I don't have any more for you except that we run low at the end of the year and it's always a stretch to see if we're gonna make it until July 1st. And I just thought we wouldn't stretch this year. Postage is not something that's ever abused in any way. We're very conscious of it. When we do our mailings, we try to double up like on motor vehicles, which is not really, it takes us longer to do that. Postage is postage and it never seems to be enough. We had discussed, I've heard it discussed many times of having one pool of postage and it never happens. And then you get short, at the end of the year you get very short on it. We send out an awful lot of stuff, probably more than anybody else in the building. Wouldn't you say so, Peg?
Well, you have more mailings.
That's right, we do. I mean, what are you asking? You asking me you want to cut 500 to 250? Is that what you're saying?
I think we're just looking for what are the numbers, that's all.
That's a number that doesn't exist at this point. It's an anticipation of a problem. I can't give you a number on that, how much more I'm going to need.
Yes, Peg.
Well, our problem is that we have a deficit right now.
And that's why I immediately said to
And
cut
we're
$1,000.
trying to shave off even dollars wherever we can.
And
We
I can't-
recognize that there are needs and we hope to be able to meet them. But
But
that's why we're doing what
Peg,
we're
I
doing.
walked in saying, cut 1,000 right away. And now,
No, you
postage.
walked in, cut 1,000 because it's being paid out of another account.
I don't
It's
follow.
being paid, the advertising for collector's expense, which was budgeted. Oh, it's the clerical that's being cut. Is that the one you said dropped
Yeah.
1,000?
Yeah,
No,
Okay,
expense.
so,
no, collector's expense, I'm sorry.
yeah, that's what I thought.
But you're saying
Because
1,000
the
from the,
advertising's being paid out of the account that Charlie manages.
From the requested 15,598, which would bring the difference down by 1,000. And then you started questioning me about the postage. Do you have a
Well,
question?
we just want to know where they go. I don't think we're trying to say you need to cut it all. We just want to understand where the numbers come from. So that's postage. So maybe
yeah.
we can just look at the
oh,
office
Well,
supplies.
each mailing we do, we also have to send out demands, because a lot of people don't pay their bills. So after like 2 weeks that the bill is due, then 2 weeks later, we have to send out demands. And it seems like more and more people aren't paying their bills, so we're sending out more and more demands.
Particularly on motor vehicle.
Yeah.
okay, Charlie's got his hand up then, Kim.
Well, I don't know if you're going to come to any sort of decision tonight about this. What you might want, this treasurer and her staff might want to do is simply sit down and say, okay, in terms of the postage, just to derive the figure and show why it is, say, okay, you've got 3,000 real estate bills being sent out, multiply that by the postage. There's 8,000 motor vehicle bills. There's, I don't know, I would hope water department covers water bills, I don't know.
Yes, they do.
But just walk that down and say, how many demand notices you have. There's gonna be miscellany notices to be sent out also, on tax title and things like that. But you just work that through, and Kathy, that's how you can go right back to them and say, this is why I need what I need.
But how can I anticipate how many demands I'm going to have to send
You
out?
take an educated guess.
I'm just gonna make a suggestion, because I do come to your meetings a lot, and I do recall there being at one point a transfer because of postage. I don't think
More
you
than
did.
one.
Right, so I definitely recognize that the postage thing may be something that's totally legitimate. Maybe you could ask for a breakdown on the increase of the supplies, because that is $2,500. I know you agreed to cut it $1,000, but when we're looking at a deficit, like every penny does count. And if you have a breakdown, then it's easier for the finance committee
So you want to know
approve
how
it.
much we spent? We spend down to the last penny.
But we're looking for what the money goes for. So you were saying paper. And
I thought I
do you
did.
think you could send us, could you find out and send us the breakdown on where the...
Yeah, because you must have broken it down to come up with a number.
Right. We can do that, right, Pam?
Okay, that would be great.
I
think
thought
that's
we
what
did
we
that. I thought I included it with the package.
So I see on the page here, you've got a list of W.B. Mason,
Yes.
1961. So is that paper?
That's what I'm talking
So
about,
is that
yes.
paper? Okay.
Paper and envelopes.
And Harding print, 2483.50. What's that?
That's printing the
Printing.
bills.
Okay.
I knew I sent something like that in there.
Then dues and meetings, but those are under a separate line, right?
Yes.
So dues I see as a separate line of 190, and it says meetings 160. Which line does that go under?
Under the same line.
Expense, I believe.
Yeah.
But I think
Well,
Nick is
we're all
asking,
within the expense line, but then the expense budget is broken
Down to
Yeah.
quite a few
Right.
different things.
So I can't tell where meetings fall in. Doesn't seem like, oh, it's,
Way up the top.
okay. Meetings is 160 and your meeting budget is 1,000. Okay, so that's what you talked about earlier, more.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So do those add up to the total? They're close though.
Oh, because we're not done
In
yet.
$100. Those two lines are 100 short of that.
What's the problem?
so the question on the expense here was these two lines, the WB Mason line and the Harding print.
Mm-hmm.
Is that your office supply lines, or is that,
Well, it's gotta be your office supplies. There's nothing else that you go there for.
You can't buy anything else from them. They're printers.
So those numbers that you have there for WB Mason and Harding print, is that this year's amounts?
I believe those are
Or is that a
FY 14, yeah.
Okay. So then your office supply line is approximately $100 higher than the total of those. So is that an estimate for the coming year? Okay. I think I understand all the lines.
okay?
Thank you.
Hey, just a note, I think it tends to be construed or implied that a reserve fund transfer is some kind of mismanagement or poor budgeting or something like that. I don't think we feel that way. It's just we missed the mark. So, if we have to do a reserve fund transfer, it's not a big deal.
It's not a big deal, but I don't like to have to do it.
Well,
I'd rather not.
But it's part of the process.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
part of the management.
Particularly in a year like this, it's a tough year.
Kendra, for the next meeting, can we look back at the reserve fund transfers the last few years and just,
Yeah.
and just see how many that we've done to the treasurer collector.
Yeah, I can do that.
Because then we can look at what the actual line's been spending on the expense line.
Yep.
That's a great idea.
How many, a couple of years back?
Yeah.
Is that it for this department? I think that might be it.
That's the only other line, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Go through
Yeah.
all your lines. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
very much for coming.
Sorry, I'm just a little uptight tonight. I had to leave my mother alone, and I got nervous when John, and she's got Alzheimer's, and just, I'm a little off base. I apologize if I offended
Is
you.
anybody at home with them?
Nobody was until John left, because he was doing the camp, so. That's all, I'm sorry. Bye-bye.
Uh,
You guys stay in?
So then, our next appointment is 7:15. Capital plan. Do you guys want to come up to the table?
I don't think the site problems. Just using the building, so we've done.
No, thank you. Smells good though.
Yeah, sure does.
No, Linda, do you want any pizza? Kendra?
No, thanks, I just want cheese stick for dinner. Cheese stick dinner. We're all in the same boat. You'll find my own agenda.
You want to sit with us too?
Well, he's close enough to that side of the table.
Just shift the chair.
Okay, so is the capital plan in the latest handout that you gave us?
Yes.
No,
The one that you had
not the
yesterday.
articles in that, but last week I gave you a list of the articles.
Yeah,
Okay.
the one that, well, we also have it in here.
I do.
This
The
is
one
in
that
here
Charlie
from
printed out the
yesterday.
other day?
Oh, from yesterday?
Yeah.
From
This is-
Monday. All right, I wasn't here.
So this isn't in priority order though.
Right.
This is just the list.
All right, I'm sorry. What's
I'm
going
sorry,
on?
it's the second page of the packet that you gave out yesterday.
Monday.
Monday.
Monday, I'm sorry.
I could just feel it when I'm here every day.
I know.
So preliminary annual town meeting article starts with the MSBC furnace at town hall.
Yes, yes.
And then the last item says balance 102, 529, is that the right paper? This one?
No, you can go off that one if you want, but this
I
is,
think they're the same.
Yeah.
This is the one that you handed out
That's the one I
last week.
handed out last week.
yeah.
This is the one that Sandy handed out the last meeting with the capital plan.
That one I have.
That's the one
I have this one, yeah.
So tonight doesn't have the capital plan.
The one that says preliminary town meeting articles?
Yes. This
Yeah,
right
it's-
here.
This was the one I did, that's the one Charlie handed out, they're the same, I think. pretty much.
Well, they're a little different. Yeah, we scratched a
scratched a
couple,
couple.
but this hasn't been updated since the
But I can work
scratch.
up this one?
Sure.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Is it this one?
And you should know that we haven't come to any final decision on any.
We're going to start now.
Yes, right now.
Okay.
Is that-
So the rest of the paper check?
So,
Well, just let me know when you want it sent out and I can.
yeah, when
Yeah,
it's
we
first
still
time of the
haven't
budget,
met
I don't
yet
say
from-
it's
so
my
we met with
official
fire,
version, it's my
we
two
met with
cents.
health, building.
Okay, one second, let's just make sure everyone's,
Yeah, I'm not copying.
that's it, that's it.
Okay, never mind.
Okay,
Okay, so everyone has
yeah.
paper to follow along.
So this is in no priority,
Okay.
I'm good. This is in no priority order at all. We expect to do that next week, but we have met so far with the municipal building committee. We met with the fire department. There wasn't really a need to meet with the police department. Today we met with recycling, and we still need to make an appointment with the elementary school. So,
And there's nothing on here from the schools yet.
there is nothing on here yet officially from the elementary school, because there hasn't been an official request yet. Like, I know Mr. Bennett.
aside from the tech stuff.
Well, we haven't, do we have the official?
Well, I
Because
have-
what Mr.
I-
Bennett dropped off
Yeah.
is not the official vote of the committee.
Okay, but at least we know there's a tech article.
Yeah, we
The
all
tech article
kind
is
of know
not
that there
listed
should be
at
one,
this time.
but,
So you could add to the bottom of the list the school tech article, because there'll
The one
probably
that's
be one.
normally been there the
Yeah,
past few
we
years.
haven't seen it yet.
right, I think the school committee hasn't had time, well, it hasn't been presented officially to this elementary school committee yet, and then what I suspect is once it's presented, they will then come to capital planning. The only difficult part about that is that we'll be under kind of a time constraint because we're not meeting until the 30th. So we'll have to work that out, but,
If you also have the older list that you got last week, that does not have the recycling truck and bins on, and that's what we met with recycling about tonight,
Okay.
the possibility of replacing the recycling truck. So you could just add that under the enterprise fund articles, because that's where it would be.
so we know what we can tell you so far from talking to the department heads what the priorities are. So the priorities would be the furnace at the town hall, replacing the windows at the water department,
So, furnace at the town hall. Okay.
yep, replacing, repairing the aerial man lift that
Okay.
Jerry uses all the time, purchasing of software and iPad for building maintenance and department,
Okay.
so that he can do his bit, it's easier for him to walk around with it.
I'm sorry, what'd you say?
It's to
What's the last
purchase
one?
the software for and an iPad for Jerry, so
No,
that,
no, the next one.
oh, the next one after that would be paint the fire station bay ceilings.
That was TBD on the cost, so you guys.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we don't have that. And then paint the fire, okay, and then replace carpet in town barn. Was that really a priority?
Is that
I
a
believe it
priority?
was. It's in terrible shape, and there's a lot of traffic in and out of there. And what they're gonna do is the carpet squares like they did at the library, so that in the future, it's not a whole replacement, just the high traffic areas would have to be replaced. I guess from what Jerry said, it's really bad. So at this point, I think it should be considered a priority unless it has to get pushed off. But-
Unless the price
Yeah.
comes out outrageous, but replace,
Do we have any kind of a price?
I do not at this time.
it's not a huge area, which is great, that part, that
Right.
office is not a big area, it can't be bigger than this room. Replace the radio, and repair radios and pagers at the fire department, which is the ongoing article that we do every year,
Okay.
along with the turnout gear. And then this year is to purchase ice rescue equipment. It's different than the diving stuff that was requested last year. This is actual, we don't have,
This is like one of those toboggan things that go out and he was telling us about it. I was surprised,
Goes out and the
yeah.
ice disperses the weight.
Okay.
Right, I was surprised that we didn't have one with the two
Right.
great big ponds we have, so.
Okay.
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
now which one was that?
That's the purchase
Purchase.
ice rescue
Okay.
equipment for 4,750. So these are your priorities that you guys have.
Well, we haven't set them in priority order,
No, I
I'm just
know.
giving you the
Okay.
list of the ones
Yeah.
that
Okay.
That we know.
are making the list to be prioritized and then eventually hopefully not get cut. But we
Okay.
recognize it maybe. The other thing is the fire department new monitor defibrillators. Those are required by the hospital as well. Like there's been some upgrades, so that may not be a choice at all for this year. So we may need those. And those are for the ambulance when they're doing the cardio monitors, so that the hospital can actually read the EKG while the patient's on the way there as well. It just makes, the treatment of the patient more effective. And then the fire and the police, they all have external defibrillators that they have in the cruisers. They're so old that they need to be replaced. They're on the schedule to be replaced. They really need to be done. That's about 15,000. Okay, so the platform truck, the Quint that the fire chief, did he ever come and talk to you about the fire truck? So obviously we don't have $765,000 to pay for that in this year. We are exploring perhaps doing a lease program. we don't know any other way that we're gonna be able to have $700,000 available to actually
Charlie?
use it.
Yeah, either you lease or you borrow, the interest
Yeah.
rates are closing on being comparable, but in either case, you'd still, basically, what if you do this, if you buy the truck, for the second and third years, that ends up being project zero. You won't do anything else, that's gonna take the money right off the top, because we're talking about this in using the free cash and the overlay surplus, so that if we choose to do that, which we should, second and third years, that's priority, that takes care of a large sum of money, and we know that going in ahead of time.
Yeah, and so I think the lease payment is somewhere around $145,000 a year, or the,
That's
No, I
over a
think-
5 year.
yeah, over
Yeah.
5.
3 years is 265.
Right.
And
Interest
was it
rate is
4-year?
comparable to
Right.
2.9 to
I thought
3.3.
4-year was 152, that's.
Yeah,
what's
so we're
sticking in my
still
mind, so-
exploring it, but we're just letting you know that this is something that, there's no other way we're ever gonna have money. I mean, this should have been purchased 2 years ago. It's a much more efficient fire engine. We're having issues with the ladder costing us money and leaking everywhere. And this will be safer for our firefighters because it will have a bucket instead of setting up staging. It'll make fighting a fire quicker, you know, for all the reasons that he explained to you. But it's,
They said that it would actually replace 2 of our trucks. It would
Right.
be engine run and the ladder.
Right.
It would have the water, the pumper on it. It would, it already has the hose up the ladder, so you don't have to, you know, right now, the hose, which I just assumed the ladder truck would have the hose, but it doesn't, we have to run it up the ladder.
So for safety, the guys on the ladder and they're running on it, I mean, it's just not a good thing.
My
But
biggest
anyway.
item with this is, we recognize the expense of this. The taxpayers should be made aware that this is an expense that we need to make. And it may not make it this year, based on the fiscal situation, but we need to present it to the townspeople so they see it coming.
Okay. The
Yeah.
one question I would have when you're looking into this would be making sure that the warranty
Yes.
outlasts the lease that we have.
Yes,
at
yes,
least.
yes, and the chief has been so great about all of this research. The other thing that we talked about, and again, we decided to pursue either financing it over 5 years, because it would be a little bit more affordable to us, is I had brought up the idea of perhaps doing a 1-year capital override, but that would raise the taxes. What was that?
That would be, right now, would be
No, I know,
about
I
$1.
know, I know, but I was just thinking it would be like $1, yeah. It would be $1 on the tax rate for 1 year.
Yep.
So, anyway, I just wanted to tell you that we've really looked at so many different options to try to see how we could accomplish it. All right, so the next.
So one more question
Sure.
while we're still on this. So if we do purchase that, it will fit inside the...
Yes.
Yes,
That was a stipulation.
this
Yeah.
is the only one that
Fit
will.
Yeah,
So what would we do with the vehicles that it replaces?
It's not gonna traditionally replace 2 and we only leave us with the 2 units in there. The other one's gonna be a backup, from what I understand from him.
Right,
Engine
2
run, I
engines,
think.
but the ladder goes.
the ladder
Right.
goes.
And that unit 1 will be a backup unit, basically,
So-
from what I understand from him.
So we would physically move, we would get rid of the ladder out of the town
Yes.
Correct.
and sell it off or
But it
whatever?
has a negligible.
Right. I just didn't know if we were gonna have to build an
Yeah,
extension
A
on
new
the...
fire station. Yeah.
What? I
Yeah.
just wanna make
No,
sure
it will
that that's...
definitely fit.
Like,
It's been measured.
And we can update you at another meeting once we come to all these sort of final recommendations to you, but, I mean, this is where we're at.
Peg,
I think when the fire chief was in, he talked about looking into a lease to purchase arrangement so that we would lease it for a certain number of years and then at the end you would buy it, of course. Would that be included in your investigation?
Yes, it
That's
has
the
been.
direction we've really kind of
Okay.
pursued.
Yeah, yeah.
okay.
All right, so the next article obviously is road maintenance, and we'll need it more than ever this year with all the potholes that are upon us.
Are you guys gonna get a list of roads that might be maintained with this amount of money this year? Charlie?
I mean, I tend to doubt by itself, 150,000 is enough to accomplish any real project. Now, I have to, Sandy has a better idea as to do we have any money left in our Chapter 90 account and do we have any money left from previous years. And then if throwing 150 into those, what we've got is total, then it's going back to Bob and asking him, what work do you plan on getting done this calendar year? But 150 by itself these days doesn't do you worth beans.
I just want to make sure that that's the data, because you know that question's going to be asked this year, what's
Yeah.
happening with the
Yeah.
road, so we should.
Sorry,
Yeah.
one of the doors has to be open.
Okay, so, right now on the capital plan, again, this is all fluid, is 2 cruisers. You know, we don't know if we have to go down to 1, but so far we still have 2 on there. And then we have the library computer technology upgrades. That's the commitment that we made to the library to make sure that that's for $2,800, to make sure we're constantly turning over the computer so we don't have the problem that we had a few years ago.
So one question on that, is that number going to be included on the amount of money that we're spending on the library?
I believe it would be, correct?
I
Included
believe
because
they
it's-
do
yeah,
include it, yes.
Yeah,
Okay, because I
Yeah.
just want to make sure that that any money that we're spending is counted towards
Right,
the
Yeah.
I
information
believe,
of
yeah, I believe she counts all of that in.
yeah. And
Okay.
then we've got the assessor's triennial, we have to do that, there's
Yeah.
nothing we can do about that. And the rest of the stuff, you can cross out the stipend, because that's really an operating, if our assessor does get the license, then that's a stipend that we have to pay by bylaw, and that goes into, I don't know why it was listed under capital, it should be
So
in
is that an operating?
Well,
It's just listed under the articles. It would be an article, but it would be coming out of raise and appropriate.
Yeah.
basically.
Okay,
Yeah,
so that's an item we shouldn't cross off.
right. And we haven't met
You
with,
Articles,
can't cross
but-
it out, but.
you need to
But it doesn't,
make sure
yeah,
it's in
not
the
capital.
operating budget,
Okay.
right. We haven't officially met with the COA yet. We did talk to Jerry and John Campbell about so we could skip right down to the elevator, the 2,200 square foot room. Those aren't things that were really formal requests, those are things that had been talked about, so we had put it on the list because it was what we had sort of talked about to say, how are we gonna fix this from last year? Like, how can we help the seniors get?
And it's important to know that the Council on Aging articles came in from the Council on Aging, not from the building committee. So, and we
every
haven't,
single one of them?
all of them, and we
Including
haven't had a
windows?
chance to speak with the Council on Aging director yet.
Okay,
Right.
so is that a meeting that needs to?
Yeah, we're going
A
to
joint
be
meeting
meet-
between COA, you guys, and building
Yeah, we could do
committee?
that.
We probably could.
We could do that, that's probably a more efficient way of doing it.
A lot of the smaller articles aren't really, again, capital, but,
So like the office phone system,
mhm.
right? I know last year we spent money to add phones, or the previous year, there was a discussion about either through the reserve fund or a transfer someplace along the way, there was an increase in phones over there as well.
Yeah.
I thought, yeah, because I thought we did.
One day.
Yeah, so I don't know if they.
I'm not sure what she's looking for. I have to
Yeah.
find it. That's why we really need to talk
Okay,
with her.
okay.
Yeah, I know that she's been, she's had some family obligations that have been happening, so it's been, but we'll get in touch with her. And then obviously we have River and we have OPEB.
Okay.
Okay. And then on the enterprise articles, then we have the water reserve fund. We're not sure yet, they went out to bid, and have they opened the bids for the water?
It's tomorrow, the 19th.
Tomorrow, all right. So tomorrow they'll be opening the bids that come in for painting and repairing the water tower.
Okay.
At that time, we'll know whether we need additional money. It will most likely, I'm hoping, if it's not a huge amount of additional money, it will be able to be covered from their retained earnings, but I'm not sure. We have to wait and find out.
So we, the town, at town meeting, voted to borrow money.
We approved a $700, we've authorized the treasurer to borrow a $700 bond for that.
700,000?
700,000, yeah, thank you. I always do that, I just tend to drop that 1,000. But a $700,000 bond for the painting and repairing of the water tower. When the bids went out a year and a half ago, they came back high. A lot of that had to do with the antennas that were on the tower. That situation has been remedied. They had to rebid, and now when we get this back, we'll find out whether they need extra money or not.
Okay.
So does that mean that antennas are not on the tower anymore?
No, what had happened, we have AT&T and Sprint antennas. They have
a lease agreement, it would been bringing in lease revenue
Yeah.
for those antennas to be on the tower. Sprint, in their lease agreement, it said if we had to do something to the water tower, they would take their antennas off and then put them back on afterwards. AT&T was saying that we had to take the antennas off. And it was a huge amount of money. AT&T has now come around and said, no, they would handle that. They're gonna set up like a temporary, they call it a cow, and they put the antennas on a temporary structure until the work's done, and then we'll put it back. But it was a lot of negotiating, but they have come around and they are going to pay for that portion.
And speaking of antennas, also on top of the water tower are our antennas for our public safety radios. And so they're gonna have to find a temporary home, and so the remedy for that would be to, I don't know if we're gonna share the same arm off the TP.
I think that's the idea,
Yeah.
but we're gonna have a meeting about that next Wednesday
Okay,
with the
perfect.
chiefs.
Okay,
So we
perfect.
have to consider that too.
Yeah,
Okay.
And then the solid waste, the recycling building is in desperate need of new windows, so we have an article in for the windows. And then a recycling truck in the bins, which there was a presentation done this, just earlier this evening by Sue Johnston from Recycling on the truck. And it's going to, it's going from dual stream to single stream recycling, which means everything will be mixed. We would have to have new bins for all the residents.
Okay.
Right now, we're looking to hopefully fund it out of their retained earnings.
Now, is this a,
And they are going to do a presentation to the selectmen on the 24th, right,
You
Tom?
might want, describe the truck. Is it-
Oh, the truck is a compacting truck. So right now, the truck that we have, all the recycling goes into it, but it does not compact. So that when it's full, it has to go to Brockton to the transfer station, empty, and come back. And it has to make many trips because of all the recycling. This new truck, I guess the old truck would hold 1.5 to 2 tons of recycling. The new truck will hold 4 to 5 tons of recycling because it compacts it.
so instead of making 4 trips
So,
a day,
right.
we'll make
so we'll
2.
save 8 hours a week, and
Right.
gas, and gas.
Right.
Also, it has a arm that will grab the bin and lift it into the.
So the guys don't have to get out and empty.
Well, we'll still have to
They
get
still
out
get
to
out.
operate the arm. It's
Okay.
not as good as one of those machines you've seen in cities where the person sits in the truck, hits a button, and the arm shoots out, grabs it.
Yeah.
The person's still gonna have to get out of the truck. It's a less complex mechanism. They'll have to get out of the truck and have the arm push the button and have the arm take the bin. But yeah, they won't have to
So
lift
is
the
it one of
bin.
those big bins with the?
Yes,
Oh,
it will be a
that's
big bin with a
Okay.
cover. It will hold a lot more. It will be covered so your recycling doesn't go down the street. You won't have to have 3 or 4 buckets, all we're gonna do now. So everything will be put in there, the paper and everything will all go in, and it goes to single stream. There are some catches, we don't get as much for single stream as we do for dual stream, but we're not getting that much in recycling returns right now anyway, so Sue will present all of that. Like I said, she'll be meeting with the selectmen on Tuesday, the 24th.
What time is she coming in, Charlie, if anybody wants to come?
I don't know.
Okay.
We can
And
let
the-
you know.
And the other thing is the truck that we have now is 9 years old, and it's seen some significant repairs over the years, and we've even had to use Holland when our truck has been out.
That's been 3 or 4 times this year already.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's 3 times this year, she said it's $700 a pop every time
To borrow.
we have to use Howard.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So it's definitely time, and, yeah.
yeah.
So the bins you talked about briefly at the previous meeting.
Right. The bins cost $48 a bin. She has applied for a grant to pay for $20 per bin. And she's pretty sure we've got the grant, or we're getting the grant. And so that leaves $28 per bin. It was our feeling when we were discussing it that rather than asking the taxpayer who's already bought the green bins to pay for those, if we can cover that under the retained earnings, we'd like to see that happen. So it would be $28, and I think she had about 2,900 bins was her estimate. So that was the thought.
Anybody have any questions on that aspect? That actually would be a lot less painful during the winter time when you have like eight boxes out there covered in snow and
Yeah, I think it's.
Well, this winter was especially tough.
And it could potentially, I know we have to buy a new truck anyway, but it's potentially gonna save us money and hours and, you know,
Gas and-
yeah.
it would
Most
be-
people might recycle now though, because
Yeah.
they don't have to sort it. and deal with
Right.
the headache of sorting and putting everything out.
So
Yeah.
that's what we have so far. Again, we haven't come to any, we haven't prioritized them within our, you know, the meeting itself. We still need to meet again with the school and the senior center, and then we'll put them in priority order, and then we'll sit down with you again and make the presentation.
Right.
Can you guys send us a copy of the longer term? This is just this
Sandy
portion,
has that.
but
Yeah.
maybe
we have
just
the-
the email, the long
Yeah.
term portion.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
huge.
It's
Yeah.
huge, yeah.
Yeah,
So-
it's out there
Yeah.
5, 10 years.
Yeah, and what
so-
we've done is when we were talking about the loan payment or the lease payment, we went out 3 or 4, 5, we went out to the 5
looked at
years to
the-
see what's due for that year. You know, there are a couple of larger vehicles that have to do around that time, but we figured out how maybe we could tweak it. So we're definitely using that long-term capital plan to sort of see, you know, what the
Right.
impact of financing the fire engine would be.
Are there any other major ones? We have the
There's
camera
an
here,
ambulance
so-
and what, 2 years or 3 years?
Yeah, there's the ambulance in 18, yeah, we'd be due for an ambulance in 18. But this fire chief would like to go back to a different style than the full chassis. That has not been what we expected it to be. So it may be a little less expensive than the full chassis one.
There was one highway truck too.
Yeah. Big dump truck.
And a big highway.
Big dump
Yeah.
truck, yeah.
For next year or like?
I think it's 2 years from
17, I
there.
think.
I think that was
We don't, it doesn't have to be exact,
Okay.
just
Pretty sure it's
try to-
17, but it's out there.
Yeah, it's a big dump. I think it's a $90,000 truck.
No, I was gonna say bigger, the big
105.
dump is like 160,
Yeah.
the smaller dump is about 90, I
So
think,
would-
I'm
Yeah.
not sure.
That, again, would be a possibility, some chapter 90 funds if we wanted to.
Yeah, when we can, we do that, but then it takes away from the roads. That's
Right.
the only problem.
Right.
Bob was so great to do that. I think it was last year we were short
Mhm.
on funds to fund the capital plan, and Bob did dip into chapter 90 because he can legally do that to make up the difference. But again, it hurts the road. So with the condition of the roads now, I don't know how much we really want to tap into the chapter 90 for capital.
But it's just another funding source to think about. that's
No,
all.
I understand that, but we have to look at the infrastructure too of the roads. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, guys. So, when's your next meeting?
We're meeting again on Monday, I believe, right?
Okay,
Are we?
sure.
Is that okay?
That works.
Okay.
No crazy.
No, I think I have a doctor's appointment late in the afternoon, so it might be a little late, but yeah.
So are you planning on to prioritize the list of
I don't know,
needs?
I can't, I don't know that we can really prioritize our money, because I think we still need to meet with the senior center. Like, if we could get the senior center in on Monday, and then perhaps the school the following week to even, like, maybe.
The following week is Monday, we're meeting.
Okay,
Council on
but maybe
Aging?
we could meet
Yeah.
capital plan could meet Wednesday that week, so that you could come in maybe that Wednesday to talk to us about it.
Well, Derek's the liaison, I'd have to talk to
Yeah,
John, and the school committee actually has to
Yeah.
talk about.
okay,
So we can,
all right. Because we can't really do the priorities until we
I
we finish
understand.
with that, so.
So will you guys, I know normally on the school side, it's usually, we have the technology item.
Yes, that's what it should be. It's just the technology piece.
Okay.
Yep. But
So I didn't know
we-
if the roof was gonna show up on that as well.
No, because we talked about, I know that John Tuffy brought up the design of the roof. Perhaps he thought there needed to be an article this spring for that. But I spoke with our building inspector who had met the vendor over there the day that we talked about doing the roof. And Tom Milius has said that the vendor said that there was not a need for a redesign, that it would just be, unless it's what the MSB, maybe the SBA requires it. So that's what we need to find out. Because Tom said he would be very surprised if it's just a redo. It's not like we're redesigning, you know, the roof itself.
If you get SBA money, you have to do it.
Do you know
feasibility
that?
study.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
I think it's right on the website when you're, because when I looked at it, it really did say that there's this design piece.
Yeah,
that you need, and it needs to have town meeting approval. From what John has said, is that they've redone the way
okay,
the whole process works, so there's this design. So I'm not sure, and
okay, so
from what I
maybe,
can see,
maybe before next Monday, you could talk to John Tuffy about getting that amount for your meeting next Monday, or the
Mhm.
30th, so that you can approve that article and the technology article, and then we can then fit this through, because it would be helpful if he had an estimate of how much the design is, because that will make a big difference to
Right.
the money that we have left to do. Great,
Okay, thank you guys. Thank you.
we'll add it to
Okay, so we don't have any
the list.
other
Yeah, that's the list.
appointments that we're not behind for.
No.
Are there any reserve fund transfers or anything we received? Okay, so we have discussion of FY15 and FY16 budgets. So is there anything that we have to review on this current fiscal year that anyone's aware of?
Oh,
No?
for shortages for this, that we
Yeah.
might need for the special? Has anybody gotten any snow and ice numbers from the highway department?
The last time I checked, we were not yet in a deficit on snow and ice. I did not see the bills because I was in Amherst at the Nassau Accountants Conference, but so I don't know what went through this week for snow and ice bills. I'm hoping, keeping my fingers crossed, that we don't actually get to that deficit, or that it's very small.
Okay,
So,
and I know
we've been
that
lucky.
there could be an electricity issue at the
Yeah,
police
I do-
department, but we're trying to find a source within their
And
budget
it may
to
not only
absorb.
be the police department, I do have to look at all of the electricity accounts for the town,
Okay,
and see how we're doing on that.
Yeah, I mean, I put it in the special town meeting draft, I put a placeholder, every single building, including the school, on the list for if we have overages because of the increase back in November for electricity rates.
okay.
And we do know we're gonna need money for the veterans benefits. I'm not sure how much
For
on that
this
yet.
fiscal year?
Yes.
For this fiscal year.
He's short in this fiscal year, and then he's bumping up for next fiscal year.
So we need to bump up next year's?
Yes.
We've already
Got it.
increased it.
Okay.
We have to look at it again. I have to see how this year comes in, and then we'll decide whether, I think we increased it quite a bit, Rachel.
Well, the budget for the year we're in now, I believe, is 130
We
and
went up to 150,
150, yeah, for this coming year.
so hopefully that will.
Hold.
So veterans benefits, 150, yeah.
Yeah. And then I see Eddie's been doing a great job keeping an eye on fire and police overtime, because last year we had run into a problem with that. And we seem to be doing okay, right, Sam?
So far,
Yeah. Fingers crossed.
yep.
Okay.
So,
While we're talking about this year, has anybody contacted through wage and personnel? What's that guy's name? No, Sealer and Wages.
Oh, I have not, he's my liaison though, but he didn't.
Did we have him corrected?
Who?
Yes,
Sealer-
we sorted him all
Sealer-
out last year.
Right.
Yes.
Weights and
Just
measures?
as long as you don't touch his.
That should be all, that should be all fixed now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we're
I
all
just
signed
want
up.
to, for some
But yes,
reason, that's
thank you for remembering.
that's the item that we
Yes.
always seem to
For
slip up.
the year we're in now, we're fine.
Right.
We have his salary and wage and personnel and his appropriation in
Match.
Article 4.
Match.
Right, and we left it, we level funded his salary for next year, which is what we should have done, because there's been no determination of any kind of increase, so it's level funded and that's where it should stay.
Okay, so do I
I
need
think
to
he
contact
actually
him?
did it correctly this year, I think he actually
Well, like,
sent in his sheet.
I
I
know-
have him on my
I think it was
list of
okay. I
people to
looked at it.
contact to come in,
I don't think we need to.
but I
The-
kind of left him
I
because
don't
he's a
think
small
we
one,
need
so.
the only question on, I know I'm jumping to FY16
we
now,
already-
but
We already discussed this one like 2 weeks ago. I mean, among us, but not with him.
Okay.
Or are you on to somebody else?
no, with
Yeah, it went down because we're sharing the cost of what stamps or
Sealer
something with
weights and
another town.
measures.
Yeah, something.
We
Yeah.
share,
Okay now.
yeah,
Supplies.
Yeah.
yep.
yeah. I just wanted,
They are.
I don't know. That's the
It
one
says
we always
state national
It's like the things that he
law.
uses.
Only when he
Yeah.
requests an increase in his salary and we forget to go back to wage.
Make sure I find some.
Well, the other item was when he changed the number of towns that he was working for, it
Yes.
changed the way the expense budget
Right.
Right.
worked out for him.
Yeah.
So I just
I did
wanna
not,
make sure
I
we-
did not talk to him.
But the
Sandy-
numbers that are on that spreadsheet are the numbers that came in on his sheets,
Okay,
all right? And Nikki, if you want to look it up,
I did.
it's 67 is his expense sheet.
Yeah.
And it does, that's the number he is asking for, so
Okay.
I would trust that number.
okay. Sorry, I just,
No,
that's the
all right.
one that we
good,
always
because
tend to
that's the one
forget.
that got messed up last year. Yeah.
Okay, so Sandy handed us out new sheets for FY16, and maybe you want, thank you for doing that, and I
No
hope you had
problem.
a good time at class this past week. Um, So you've got some new changes to the assumptions here,
Right.
so I can just read.
Yeah, and mind you, you should be using Sandy's notes and stuff. Don't use mine as any official version. What I did was earlier today, run some numbers based on what Sandy had done, and then the additional information we've got in the last 24 hours on drops in expenses and increases in revenues. I'm coming at this, obviously, my orientation has been from the different direction of saying I'm starting off with the 15 level funding. I'm not looking at what people are asking. I'm going to fund those things I know have to be funded, electricity, special ed, insurance, et cetera, and say, okay, what do we have left after that? And so what I specifically said in that is I don't know that my numbers are in fact all correct, but they're looking a lot better than they were 24 hours ago, to the extent that we may be able to start talking possibly of doing an across-the-board wage increase, assuming we want to go up to the levy limit. And if we don't want to, obviously, at some point we have to make a decision about what we want to leave on the table. But at least that can start getting into the conversation. It may not be much, it might be 1% across the board, but something may be doable.
But Charlie, does that mean like, you know, the tax collector was in earlier saying that she needed increases on those particular line items for postage? Did you just level fund?
Yes, I have a page at the bottom, the last page is a list of increases I didn't include.
Oh, all right. Because that, yeah, we should probably include them until the time.
Okay, so why don't we just take a minute and go through Charlie's handout, and hand it
So, use that as a reference in a sense of part of the conversation, but I really would go with Sandy's. She'll be able to keep better track if you, for instance, make any decisions tonight about actually approving line items. But I really think at this point, you're in a situation that you could in fact start approving those line items that are simply level funded. And be able to get some of this work done tonight. But that's me, that's my 2 cents.
Okay, so the one bit of good information here, so Charlie had given us an updated new growth number on Monday, and Sandy and Charlie gave us a new updated growth number today,
Right.
and that's up to the total of $187,309.
It hasn't increased by that much, that's the.
No, that's the new,
Okay,
that's the new
that's the
number,
new
but
one.
we had been planning for 136,000.
Yeah, a week ago, that's the number we would have, yeah.
So that's,
That's
50,000,
substantial.
it's a $50,000 increase, that's huge.
Yeah.
So from Sandy's, I'll just read off her assumptions. State aid was used with the numbers for Chapter 70 and unrestricted aid. All other numbers agree.
We use 15 for Chapter 70 and unrestricted.
Okay,
We leveled those at 15.
yep,
But all the other numbers that the governor had
Yep.
made, we used the new number.
okay.
So you're not using the 76.
No, not
So
using
that- That was one thing that we were gonna ask you to do, is use the Chapter 70 increase for the budget, because we felt that the unrestricted aid might not hit the
It's
governor's
more
number,
vulnerable?
but more than likely, the Chapter 70 number will be funded by the legislature.
I will tell you what they were saying at the meeting. They
Okay.
said to be very careful. They said, be very conservative.
Okay, so should we go back to just level funding state aid, do you think? Is that what they mean by conservative?
They were talking about the bigger numbers, especially the unrestricted.
Okay.
But I'm not sure about, that's why I felt pretty good about using the 15 number for the Chapter 70.
Yeah,
Okay,
Because it's conservative.
yeah.
And if we do okay using that number, that's a good thing. I mean, I'd love to hear from the House or the Senate that, yeah, we like those governor's Chapter 70 numbers and we're gonna go with them, but can we count on that? I don't know.
So Gordon, you're working on Sandy's, not Charlie's.
Yes.
Just because I noticed that the amount that you level funded was 126,000, which would make a big difference in the bottom line.
126,000 for what?
You just said the budgets to discuss, the
Yeah,
increases.
right.
And so, but some of those may be needed, so we're gonna go.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, thank you. So we're gonna go on Sandy's.
I think Charlie said to
Yeah.
use Sandy's, but
Yeah.
with his analysis.
Okay,
But I mean, if you want to say right now, for our purposes tonight and until we get some better confirmation from the State House, to use the fiscal 15 numbers for Chapter 70, that's fine. I just need to know that.
So, I don't know, what's the finance committee think? Plan for the $20 per kid increase or level funded? And we can ask our school committee members what they feel that they see the legislature doing as well.
Typically, over the last few years, it's been 25 per child, and that was what the increase was based on for Chapter 70 over the last several years. 20 seems to be, I see, without knowing where the legislature is on this, I don't know. I mean, and this is so late in the process and everything's just backed up. You haven't heard from them at all about where they're going.
So would you feel more comfortable at a 0 increase for Chapter 70? Or using the 20?
I'm not sure the legislature is going to do a complete level fund of Chapter 70, but I'm not sure. I don't know. I really wish I could say.
All right,
What do you
so the
think?
governor's numbers increased it by $11,840. Which, so, I mean, we can split it, we can just leave it off and not count it right now and then see what happens
But
later.
yeah, by itself, it's not material enough to make a difference. Obviously, when you throw it in the pool of everything else, it ends up being a big pool. But 11,000 one way or the other is not, I mean, we'll be able to do this or we'll be able to do that, that's agreement, but by itself, it's not going to change the whole thing. We're talking still about a $20 million budget. 11,000 is 1/2 of 1/10 of 1%.
Is this Tiger, you feel?
Yeah, I'm not sure we just have a solid enough idea yet from the state.
So level funded would be okay if that's what we did with,
I can give you my advice just because I've been going to the State House listening to.
I think, I don't mean to interrupt,
Yeah.
but I'm certainly listening, but because we don't have a quorum here, I'm a little uncomfortable deliberating about this kind of thing.
well, you can talk.
I know, I mean, you certainly can give any, advice, direction that you wish, but I'm just uncomfortable having us deliberate without the rest of the
Well,
board here.
you're actually not deliberating because you don't have a quorum.
Now, I understand, but it's more of a kind of respect thing.
Okay.
But why don't you go ahead and continue your thought?
So I would lean more toward either level funding or just taking half of the Chapter 70 and more just level funding. If Sandy's sources today were saying be really conservative, then I would. Again, as much as I loved looking at the governor's budget, there's so many other factors for revenue to support that and cuts that I don't think it's worth the gamble to.
Peg.
I think that we should look at that later in the process. I think we have to start dealing with the budgets and try to put together an expenditure budget, and then we can start looking at the revenues again when we get more information. From what I've been seeing in the paper, I'm kind of inclined that maybe they will go with the $20, but I don't know, so I'd rather wait and make that decision before we go to print, and then we'll know exactly where we are, but, you know, we should at least start looking at the budgets.
Okay. Does anybody else have a feeling we should leave it level or add the $20 per kid?
I think we should leave it level and move on.
Okay, then that's fine with everyone for this point for the next few weeks?
Do you need a motion or?
Well, it's Sandy's
Yeah, I've
spreadsheet,
already
so
done it.
she's already.
Is that gonna affect our decisions on the budgets at this point in time, do you think?
Well, I hope the, well, I mean,
I think it's what, about $10,000?
Yeah,
11, so,
Yeah.
let's move on.
all right. Okay, so why don't we start at line item 1?
Okay.
And let's go through some of these and approve some. And I would suggest that we approve the level funded items and the items that we know are just steps or contracts, because that's what we said, and that'll give us an idea where we are. So if we haven't talked to that department yet, and there's an increase, then we just pass it for now and talk about it when we get to it. So line item 1 is moderator salary, level funded, $200. Move?
I thought you were gonna do a group.
Well, why don't we just do
Oh,
one
okay.
by one? So
Okay, I would move it.
we'll get through until 9 o'clock, and then we'll cut out. Okay?
Yep.
Is there a second
What's the motion?
to moderator salary, $200? Line item 1.
Yep.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that's our recommendation. Line item 2, selectman salary,
I move it.
$4,500.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that's our recommendation. Town administrator salary, I'm assuming that's the day increase?
No,
No,
that's,
actually,
I got my golden parachute.
his longevity went up.
Oh,
for the
okay.
number of
What
years.
is that?
Longevity.
I'm getting into my 20th year here, so I get a little bit
Yeah,
more
okay.
money.
Okay,
I move
so
it.
is there a second for 88,604?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
That was unanimous. Let's move on. The selectman clerical, that's an increase. Steps in the days.
Yeah.
I move it.
Okay, that's $72,401. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimous. Okay. Selectmen, line 5, expense, that's level funded at $4,100.
I move it.
Is there a second?
Aye.
No.
I think-
Sorry, no, second it. I can't.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous. Okay. Line 6, law, $42,200, level funded.
I move it.
Did we discuss this one? Is that a good number? I feel like we didn't talk about this one. That's
It's
your
level
number?
funded, I mean,
It's level,
He
I
feels
think-
it's a good number at this
Okay.
time.
it's as good a, hey, look, it's as good a number as I can give you. I
Okay.
think, you know, we'll just stay within budget.
Okay.
We just won't get involved in lawsuits.
Sounds good.
That's a great plan.
I like it.
okay, so that's line 6, law, $42,200, level funded. Is that been moved?
Moved.
Second?
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that's unanimous, that's our recommendation. Okay, skip town hall electricity for now unless Charlie's happy with that number.
Yeah, actually, that includes my bump up for that.
Okay, line 7, town hall electricity, $14,900, increase of $2,100. Is there a motion to approve that recommendation?
I move it.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in, oh, yes, Becky.
Yeah, Charlie, did you use the same philosophy with all of the electrical?
I
budgets?
tried to, in my own budgets well, the stuff I gave you from me, I plugged in numbers. Some people in the requests that are in Sandy's budget did not increase electricity line items
Okay.
or sub-line items. So when we get to them, if we get to, when we get to a particular building, we can check to see, did that department increase the line item for electricity or the sub-line item? If they didn't, we're gonna have to make an adjustment for that.
So you call them to our attention when
Yes.
we get to them. Okay.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded, line 7 for 14,900. All those in favor? Aye. It's unanimous. Line 8, town reports for $5,700. It's a $100 increase.
Right, and that's
Assuming
just a
that's a contract.
combination of the cost of printing the reports and sending, not the reports so much as the warrants and sending them out. We have more, the number of reports or number of warrants we need to send out is more. And then obviously, so for every single report, there's a printing cost and there's a postage cost.
Okay. That's line 8 for 5,700. Is there a motion?
Peg, that's you.
Okay, I'll move it.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, it's unanimous. The audit, line 9, it is at $20,000. It is level funded.
I move it.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous. Line 10, Finance Committee Clerk. We have an increase of $228 to a total of $4,661, and that is going to be
A step in a day.
in a day.
Pardon?
A step in a day.
Okay, I move it.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, unanimous. Finance Committee expense, line 11. We are level funding it at $359.
I move it.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? I have a question. Is that enough money to cover the binders and everything else that we need? And the,
Seems to be. We
And
haven't
the
had an
fee.
issue.
okay. All those in favor? Aye. Oh,
We vote.
passed unanimously, but
We did say that it seemed to be. Your board does not go to a lot of the,
meetings.
the meetings. If you decided you want to go to the meetings, you might want to put a little more money in that budget at this time. So, you haven't utilized it in the past, but you have some new people who might want to use it. So you might want to hold on this line and look into how much extra it would cost to send a couple of people to that meeting.
Okay, do you want to just note that we'll talk about this in April after people,
It's $45 a person.
Okay,
It's in the fall.
so we're holding it?
oh, we voted on it. So-
Right.
But just make a
just
tickler to come
make
back
a
to it.
Note that we come back to it. Take a look, maybe people will want to go to the meeting.
Speaking of which, we do have a finance committee handbook that's on CD-ROM. Charlie, do you have a copy of it?
I even think I just have electronic.
Yeah,
You
so
can check,
Charlie
we
can
have them
email it to
upstairs
you
in
if
the
you want.
file.
It's pretty helpful.
Okay, so the accountant salary is,
I know it was down $7. That's because last year when we did the increase for the 1.5%, it did 1.5% on the longevity as well. So the actual wage is what's reflected here, the wage that's on the wage of personnel bylaw. So that's why it looks funny. I'm
okay.
not chipping myself $7.
So that's line 12, accountant salary, total $70,762.
I move it.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Aye?
Aye.
Oh, yeah, all those in favor? Aye?
You're really dancing.
Let's get through this thing. Okay, accountant clerical, that is line 13, $47,032. It's an increase of $174.
That's the day.
That's the
step?
day.
No, it's a day.
Yeah.
Because there's an extra day this year.
There's 262 work days this coming fiscal year. We were in 261.
Oh, okay.
So,
Sleep year.
so everybody who works on an hourly basis is getting a 0.5% more of money because they're working a 0.5% more of days.
Okay, I move it.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, it's unanimous. Okay, the accountant expense is level funded at $1,625.
I move that.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, it's unanimous. Okay, data processing. Why don't we skip that one
Yes,
for now?
please leave that alone.
Okay.
No, I mean,
No, we still have a lot of discussions to do on.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Line 16, assessor's salary. It's level funded at $4,500.
I move it.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, it's unanimous. Principal, assessor, and appraiser, 17. It is $63,829. It's an increase of $1,600. Now,
This is the
this-
new person's
this-
second year, right?
So this is the question.
This, I believe, is her step.
Okay. Now, is the other item that's on the capital plan a warrant article, or is this?
yeah, there's two articles. One is an acceptance of a state statute.
Okay.
Since the way we're doing our warrant this year, my hope is that John will
Group
group
those
those
together.
two things, but those articles will occur after we've done our work on Article 4. So that we've done the budget, let's say it's Tuesday night, we get to these two articles, which are to see if the town will vote to accept that statute that says we'll pay an additional $1,000 for the assessor, meaning the principal assessor, if they're certified. Karen did get certified the last couple of months, so if the town votes to approve that, to accept that statute, we'll then have to pay an additional $1,000. Immediately following the acceptance article, there'll be an article to appropriate the additional $1,000. It should be a raise and appropriate, as Sandy said, since it will be an ongoing expense that we'll have to fund every year.
Okay.
But it's not included in this right now because we haven't accepted the statute.
Okay. So that's one item that we have to make sure we include on our budget.
Okay.
Okay, so principal assessor, appraiser, line 17, has been moved by Peg. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, it's unanimous. Line 18, assessors clerical. So this is $62,169, and I'm assuming the decrease of $2,869 is due to staff changes?
Yes, we had a veteran person leave and someone else come in at the bottom rung, so.
Okay. Is there a motion?
I move it.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, unanimous. Assessors expense, line 19. So there's an increase here. Why don't we skip it until we get that person to come in? Line 20 is office machines expense. That's a $200 decrease at $7,500. Is there a motion?
I move it.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those, any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Okay, it's unanimous. So line 21, so here's some questions for us. So this is, we talked to the department head. Do we want to skip this one because it's an increase and talk about this later? Or do we want to have the discussion now because we said that we would just do the level funded and contracts?
I move we skip it.
Okay, we'll skip it.
But are we skipping
So I would just skip that one and do line 22 then. That's the next one I'll call out, the treasurer expense line. Because it's level funded at 6,500. That's line 22.
Okay, I would move that.
Okay, is there a second?
Second?
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Okay, it's unanimous. Okay, line 23, tax title treasurer, $2,500. It's level funded. Is there a motion?
I move it.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, line 24 is treasurer banking and payroll expenses. It's a $100 increase and it's due to contract. It's $6,200.
I move it.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, all those in favor. Something that passes unanimous. Okay, clerk. We talked to Barbara a couple weeks ago, correct? Okay. This is level funded at line 25 at $37,853.
Has never changed it because I wasn't at that meeting. So I didn't know, did she ask for a change or this was her original submission? And then I know she spoke with you about another proposal.
That we never discussed, so we just went with it.
She gave you a presentation.
Right, I move that we hold this.
Okay. See, good thing you're here, so we double check. All right, so Barbara, that didn't affect the clerical line, correct? Okay.
Hers is just that.
Okay, so line 26, clerk clerical,
I move that.
it's, what's the?
32,648.
32,648. Okay, is there a second? Thank you.
Yes,
Okay.
I moved it.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Okay, so the expense is an increase. Look at it.
You might be changing that?
Okay, we'll skip it then.
Yeah.
All right, we'll skip that.
Wait a second. Clerk expense is,
It's an increase, so we'll skip that one for now. Barbara just said there might be a change.
We're
to it.
talking about doing the,
I don't see an increase here.
It's $350.
Clerk expense?
the bylaw book.
Yeah.
So it's all gonna be electronic, that would take,
Oh.
whatever I have is
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I see,
off of it, so.
Okay,
Okay.
Basically,
I'll
what-
hold that.
hold on, Peg.
The gray book,
Yes.
which has the bylaws, we send that out to get any changes made, and then they send supplements and changed pages. That costs what,
About
$7,000?
$3,000.
What we're thinking about is people could still get hard copies, but we just print it all on regular 8.5 by 11 and have them in 3-ring binders and whatever. And we already have electronic versions up on the website, so we can still do both things. But I don't see the point of spending $3,000 to ship it out and have it come back in a specialty format. I mean, if nothing else, making copies of those pages is a pain because you can't run them through the feeder. The size they are doesn't work.
Okay, so let's skip it. Okay, the line 28 is election register. That is down. It's a total of 12,910. It's down 1,427. It's a 10% decrease.
Less elections.
Less elections. Okay,
I would move that.
okay. Is there a second?
Second?
All those in favor? Aye. It's unanimous. Okay, let's skip the treasurer collector salary, clerk.
Is there a reason why you're skipping the salary? That's level funded.
Oh, okay. I thought that was to
The
do
other
with
thing.
the way the other,
No, that was the other one. This is just the treasurer collector. You're thinking about the clerical line where they're
Okay.
adding. No, actually, the clerical line's okay too. It was one of the other lines where they were adding hours.
okay.
This one's
So
not.
then that one,
Let's vote 29.
Yeah.
okay, 29. Vote 29?
Yep.
Okay. That is $64,849. Is there a motion for treasurer collector salary?
I'll move it.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed or abstentions? Okay. Motion passes.
So I think that 30.
So skip 30 then?
Oh wait, didn't we
Yeah.
decide that 30 is just steps a day and that floating holiday is not extra hours, is that right? So I think we should vote that one.
Okay. So line 30 is $63,242, and the increase is $3,021.
Do we put a hold on that?
No, Nikki just said that that one is the days and the steps.
Oh, it is?
And that
Oh.
floating holiday thing.
Okay, super, I move it then.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Okay, passes unanimously. Okay, the expense line, why don't we skip that one? I knew there was one we needed to skip.
Yeah.
Okay, wage and personnel, clerical, it's line 32. It's $4,843, it's an increase of $223.
That's a step in a day.
Step in a day, okay?
Okay, I move that.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Okay. If I skip a step, and you have something to say, just tell me. Wage and personnel expense is 33, it's level funded at $250.
I move it.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
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 Okay, it's unanimous. Employee recruitment cost is a $3,000 increase. Why don't we
Hold,
hold on that one? Okay. Conservation Commission expense is level funded at $1,225. Is there a motion?
I move it.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Conservation Commission agent is not funded, okay?
So what are we gonna do about that?
So that comes out of the warrant article.
I know, but it's part of it's a line item, so are we going to fund it at all? Ask Sandy.
What they're doing at this point is they do not have an agent.
Right.
If they get a submission that requires an expert, they have money in an article where they can hire an expert.
Okay.
So that's what they're doing at this point.
Okay.
Okay,
And
so,
did they have their article in?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
okay. Is there a
Do we
motion?
vote on that or do we skip it because it's empty?
What's a zero? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
I move zero.
Doesn't matter.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, it's unanimous. Line 37, planning board expense, $2,109. It's level funded.
I move it.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, line 38, Board of Appeals expense, $825. It's level funded.
Okay, I move that.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Line 39, regulatory clerical. It is $69,496, an increase of $1,118. I'm assuming that's a step.
That's a step in a day.
And the days.
Okay,
I move it.
is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, building committee clerical. It is $10,758. It's an increase of $38.
It's a day.
Okay,
I move it.
is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, passed unanimously. Building committee expense, $450, level funded.
I move it.
Is there a second? Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. The best thing was her phone going off. Right at the right point. Oh, Siri's voice?
It says sorry.
Line 42, buildings custodian. $164,240. It's an increase of $2,508. It's a 1.6% increase.
I assume it's just steps and days?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
Charlie?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
Move it.
Is there a second? Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, passes unanimously. Okay, so 43 is building expense, and that is $33,370. It's an increase of $1,903. And that's gotta be expense line.
I think you should
Jerry's
probably
coming in
hold
next
the next three and talk to Jerry.
Okay, sounds good.
He's coming in next Wednesday.
Okay,
And one of the things that we'd like to discuss is the town building snow and ice melt expense, making it a snow and ice expense, so think on that one.
You mean moving it into the,
you mean deleting the word melt?
Deleting the word melt. So he had some other expenses for all the snow that we had this year,
Okay,
and I would not let him use that because that right now is supposed to be just for ice melt.
okay. Okay, so then,
Oh,
oh yeah. All right, so why don't we stop right there and look at the agenda. So we have review to date, spending, I think we did that already, and we have public participation. So is anybody here that would like to speak tonight?
To what?
Public participation. You guys have any input? Joan, Mel?
All I'm gonna say is I want a number.
well, that's what I was thinking that we needed to discuss.
I have number one between 1 and 10.
That's why I said leave.
Silver
space
Lake
for
really
public
needs
participation.
some kind of number from you guys. We are meeting on the 26th. We need to vote a budget by the end of the month, by law. If this is all about working together, work with us here.
Okay, so I have a meeting with Mr. Tuffy tomorrow to go over that horrific meeting that we had Monday night where I was completely out of it and
Can't
talk about
follow your
spreadsheets.
numbers.
Do you want that new spreadsheet?
We can hand them out, but I don't, the numbers that I did in that spreadsheet, yeah, we can hand them out because you printed them. So I was up till 4 o'clock in the morning on Monday, so I guess it was really Tuesday after that.
Yeah, thank you for the email, by the way.
Horrific email, well, the meeting and then the email that followed. So I went through and we had a number of differences between the spreadsheet that was originally sent by Mr. Tuffy, and then there were updates after that spreadsheet he created went out. So that's what the difference was between mine and his numbers. So when I pulled up the numbers again that night, so I tell you, click on this link. I searched for Silver Lake, the year 2015, and it brought up the information that I was using. And then if you looked at the information from this other link, you'll see that we had different numbers. So all I was doing is pointing out in this email where those different numbers came from. So I'm meeting with Mr. Tuffy tomorrow to just go over the spreadsheet, go over the formula. I asked a couple of questions. I think I know the answers to the questions. Once the assessment goes out, the towns vote on it. If there's any changes, okay. If there's any changes, what happens, and I believe it's the school committee will make up the difference because the town meeting has already taken place.
Right, so I think one of the questions revolved around regional transportation.
Yep.
And we had used a reimbursement number when we had done the budget last year. That was significantly lower than what was eventually voted at the state level later on. And then the 9C cuts came. So
Now, when the assessment came out, just so everyone's clear, Mr. Tuffy's assessment used the earlier number. So when the 9C cuts took place, we
It's-
weren't affected.
Relatively speaking.
Well,
Right,
we
there's
didn't
still
from
a
the
decrease
assessment.
in the overall regional transportation reimbursement, but it's not that huge number that,
It's not the
if-
$200,000 difference.
exactly. So, and rather than have a town meeting every time we have something like that happens, it's, I think, more cost effective to let the year play out and see where we actually go. And especially in a year like this, where that number for regional transportation was up and down even further. If you want to have a town meeting every time that happens, we would have had 3 additional town meetings.
The other items that I did when I sent the email, I updated the share cause, because that was different. We didn't have that. That took place at the
March 12th.
March 12th meeting with Union 31 and Silver Lake. So I have a difference of 133,257 from the net the net state aid. So that's a number that I'm going to be talking to Mr. Duffy about tomorrow, just to make sure that we're both on the same page of what the net decreases in revenue are. So just when you look at those quickly, because that's the biggest change in the assessments really to the towns, there's a decrease of $335,550 from the capital account. There's a $19,000 difference in the Pembroke reimbursement for the settlement.
You still own that retirement though. The increase in the retirement. So even though there's a decrease in the reimbursement that Pembroke's given, we
Yeah.
still own the whole amount of the retirement.
Right.
I just want to make that clear to everybody that is going to go down year over year over year as the people that Pembroke has to pay for are no longer part of the system.
But those people aren't in the system anymore, right? Those people
They're
are
part
out
of the
system.
retirement system though. They're part of the people we're paying retirement
We
for.
still have to pay for them until they move to another,
So until they retire, yeah.
Basically, we've got,
Okay, thanks, Charlie.
think of it as 2 groups. Before Pembroke left, after Pembroke left. We're on the hook for everybody after Pembroke left, and will continue to be until the sun blows up.
Yep.
Before Pembroke left, Pembroke will be sending us money. But since the total cost of the pre-Pembroke people will fall as years go by, because they'll no longer be on our insurance, for whatever reason, Pembroke's amount to us will also decrease.
Right, and over time that will
Yeah.
go away. Okay. And then the other item was a $17,000 decrease in transportation aid. So I have a total loss of revenue of $505,832. There's an increase of revenue of $144,000 for the net metering solar contract that Silver Lake signed. And then if you took the difference between those items with the overall spending increase, you would see that the spending increase minus the difference there is $244,000. So we have, everything adds up. This is getting as bad as Monday night.
I have a question.
Yep.
So you've got your decrease in the Pembroke reimbursement, but that's going toward retirees now. Doesn't that come out of a different account? Or is that in the school budget?
That's in the school budget.
The retirement money comes
Yes.
right out of the school budget? So
Yes.
it's not like,
Just as our health insurance does.
right, but
it's different
But
than
we have-
elementary school.
We have elementary and town employees.
Yes.
They
Silver
have
Lake
the
is
region.
responsible for
right,
all of it.
oh, okay, that's what's different.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And then, so I have an increase total year over year of $895,000.
Which I think what Mr. Tuffy agreed with.
Yep.
Yeah, he was around 9, yeah.
So it doesn't include the tax change. Okay, so those are an update from that 4 o'clock email that I sent
So
out.
that's for the 3 towns, right?
Yep,
Combined,
yeah.
And
So-
that's around 7-something%?
that's 7.07%.
I have a question.
Yes.
Did you ever hear back regarding Plimpton's share? I know you had questioned it,
So-
whether or not it was,
so
oh, okay.
the,
I got ahead of us.
we got an email, or I got an email from Susan also, and I forwarded that information over to Charlie. Charlie printed out some copies for us tonight. So there's an informational guideline release. This is from the Department of Revenue. If you skip to the back page, you'll see that there's 4 different types of waivers. There's a revenue waiver, an expenditure waiver, a municipal growth back waiver, and a regional school committee waiver. So if you read through each one of these items, I believe that the municipal growth factor waiver, you can apply for one if your multiplier is 1.5 times what the average state multiplier is. Plimpton should have applied for this last year because they were over an 8 multiplier last year. So they should have applied for this last year. And I think they should apply for it this year as well. But I don't know because we don't know what the state average number is. We just know that the number is 6.06% for Plimpton. So Plimpton's looking into applying for this right now.
But right now the state is at 4, correct?
I don't know because it hasn't been released on the database website yet. Okay, and then the other item that when I was reading through this today, I believe that the regional school should have requested a waiver for the one-time use of the $335,000 when you read through this. Because it was one-time money that we don't have access to again, because it was outside of E&D. It wasn't E&D money, it was the capital fund money.
Right.
So I think we should have applied for a waiver for that money.
And this waiver
Okay.
would affect the minimum required
It would
contribution?
change the minimum required contribution, because,
And presumably it would lower it.
yes. So it would bring the, just from my quick assumption looking at it, it would make the difference between the minimum net contribution and the foundation budget larger. So I'm gonna ask Mr. Tuffy about this tomorrow, because we just looked at it today. So, yes, Becky?
Can you tell us, as of right now, what Silver Lake's assessment request is? Is it different from what's on the sheet?
It's about, well, I can tell you the exact number tomorrow when I talk with Mr. Tuffy, just go over what I have as a difference between what he has.
Okay, okay,
I can give you what he gave the committee.
because I have 2 different figures.
Yes.
Please.
What he has calculated for the committee is $4,164,071.85.
I'm sorry, would you say that again, Casey?
$4,164,071.85.
And that's for 3 towns, right?
No, that's
No.
just for health.
That's Halifax's.
Okay.
And that's the operating assessment.
That's the operating assessment for Halifax.
But that could change based on.
So,
what
yes.
Plimpton
Yeah, after
has.
he talks to
So-
John.
Which is actually lower than what I have on here, and that does not include the
That-
debt.
That's
No,
about a,
the debt is a separate number.
yeah.
Right.
Okay, so my next question is, Charlie, when you did your spreadsheet that I
Yeah,
didn't have. a
I
chance
level
to-
funded the assessment.
So that's a difference of a lot, right? You level funded it from last year, not,
Yeah, I took what we got, I took our assessment for last
Yep.
year and just simply level funded it. I wasn't making, it wasn't a political statement at all, it was
Yeah,
simply
yeah,
that I
yeah.
level
Yep.
funded lots of people's budgets that otherwise they were requesting increases.
It's actually about $1,800
Yeah.
less
Yeah.
than what's on here.
So I'll have an update for the committee on Monday on what numbers we have. Because I do question some of the numbers that are on the assessment right now. And then I'm hoping that maybe DOR will have some information regarding this process. For Plimpton at least, and maybe for us, for talking about the regional not transportation, but the regional school revenue waiver. Because if they included the 335,000 and it was a one-time revenue, but they used it in their long-term spending, then we need to get that changed. So I'm hoping to get the superintendent to look at it tomorrow.
Good.
Yes.
Okay, but we still need to give Casey some guidance for Silver Lake, right?
Would be nice.
Yeah. So we need to decide what we think.
So I don't think we can agree that 7% is reasonable.
So, Casey, I know we talked about this the other night, but can you remind us, in the Silver Lake budget, other than steps and lanes and contractual obligations, what increased?
There is the increase in insurance,
Okay.
there is an increase in retirement, other than steps and lane, I'm trying to go through.
Yeah, sorry.
There is a slight increase in, well, it depends on if you look at the percentage or the amount. There's an increase in audio visual, which is I think that's the software, just the increases. We took out anything that was new or anything else, but it's the increases in what we use for year over year.
So that's an increase in cost for something that you're still using?
Yes.
It's not a new thing?
It's not a new thing.
But the other thing you should make note of is that there were a number of items that came out of that budget that went to the capital plan.
Yeah.
That would normally be in the budget as operating, because capital plan for them was building, but they put the switches for the computers, a truck.
The list,
a
the
lot.
7 page
So
list.
the budget a few weeks ago was much higher.
Yep.
A lot of those items came off and got put into a capital plan. So that's still being funded, so
But
I
the-
just need to.
Yep.
Right, but the truck is actually a capital item.
But
We
there
have to
was-
plau the parking lots.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm trying to
and that's
see,
in
there
the
was other
capital plan,
things.
that's not-
Yes, it's in the capital
But
plan.
just make sure that you're aware that
Yeah.
they don't
Yeah, you
have
just need to be
articles.
aware of, like.
We don't have articles, so it's
So
supposed to
it's
be in the
already in the
budget, but
budget.
we were asked to take it out and put it in the capital
We
plan.
Right,
didn't ask
but-
you to take that out, though. We asked you to do a capital plan on building, but, so there's
Okay,
treadmills
so-
in there.
I think we're all a little confused then.
Yes,
There's
yeah.
treadmills, there's 2 Mortise machines, I don't know what those are.
Yeah, for
There's
woodworking.
switches for the computers, language lab, music PCs, Wi-Fi upgrades, so there is,
That's
I'm
the
just making the,
technology.
yes. But if those are the things which we talked about the other day that are gonna be continuing, then those become part of an operating budget, in my opinion.
So this number, the assessment, I don't know where I wrote it down, the 800 and whatever thousand, that's the assessment number for the whole town.
The 3
Does
towns.
that
Yeah.
include your capital
No.
items?
No, there's no capital in it, because we're supposed to be working with the towns on the plan.
But when we come to town meeting, you're gonna wanna buy some of those things, so. is
We're
that
going
gonna
to
go-
have to.
Well, no, I understand, but where is that gonna be a separate?
I don't, and this is where I am so confused in this whole process right now, okay? Because we were asked to have the capital plan separate, and what's capital items, and is the capital plan supposed to be building, is it supposed to be? I'm confused.
Yeah, we didn't ask for it to
We're
be
all
separate.
confused.
Yeah.
Right.
It was separate this special town meeting because it was a separate article, but really it should be part of, it's gonna be part of the assessment. It won't be a separate article, I don't suspect. It will be part of your assessment, Charlie.
So Sandy had her hand up first.
I think what the confusion is, Casey, is there's a difference between your capital plan, which is a 5-year plan to supply capital items or repair capital items, and your capital, and your budget. I mean, you include your capital improvements within your budget, within your assessment.
Right, and that's
So
where I
when
think
we get the assessment, we have your operating
Yeah.
budget plus some capital items. That's the
Right.
whole assessment.
Right.
So we don't want you to separate it out of your budget, because that doesn't give a
Okay.
true picture of your budget. We need to see a plan that things are being
Right.
replaced and repaired and stuff like that, but we don't need it separated out of the budget. We need to have a true figure of the budget.
All right, because I'm gonna tell you that right now, all of us on the committee level thought that what you wanted us to take all of the capitals out of the budget.
Not all of it, but the long-term building capital plans.
No, don't take them out, just make a separate list.
Yes.
I think that the list of the building items, technology plan, and the other maintenance items, yes, you need them as a plan, but we're gonna have to fund them From-
It's gonna be in our-
from the assessment.
Unless we do a stabilization
Right,
agreement,
and
which is
then,
separate.
and then the other, so looking at this handout that we got today,
Mhm.
I wanna make sure that if we spend X amount of dollars out of E&D, that it's not requiring us to push up our net minimum contribution.
Right.
I wanna make sure that we file whatever waiver we have to file.
Right, I
To
understand.
make sure, because just looking through it quickly, I think we hurt ourselves by not filing for that 335.
So when we talk also about a capital plan is, you remember I talked about the track. So we know it's gonna be every 10 years. Like that's what needs to be in the long-term plan so that we know when you have your next heating, whenever the heat needs to be replaced, or the roof, or those kinds of things. So we can identify in the same way that we do in our own plan, that we can calculate, okay, we're gonna take this on, what do we have in this particular year? So I think that's really what we need, is that kind of a plan.
Okay.
But I suspect doing articles will be very difficult for 3 towns.
I don't think we can.
Right, no, that's what I mean, it has to be within your assessment.
We can put up a field, but I don't think that we know what the implications are.
Your meeting's Thursday, right?
A week from Thursday.
From Thursday.
You know, there's whole school committee meeting is next Thursday. There's a revenue subcommittee meeting at 2:30 on Friday, which is specializing in both, even though it doesn't say capital plan on the revenue subcommittee, there was certainly a lot of discussion about the capital plan at the first meeting. I suspect there'll be plenty of discussion at the second meeting, along with its cousin, which is the revenue that we held, we got from Pembroke, and also the money that we had held in case
Yep.
we lost the case against
But
Pembroke.
when you say Friday, you mean 2 days from now?
Yes.
Yeah.
In a bit.
Revenue subcommittee, 2 days from now, next
Right.
Thursday, the 26th,
Okay.
At
for the
2:30.
whole committee.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, the
Friday.
subcommittee.
Well, the revenue subcommittee is Friday.
Yes.
2:30, 2 days from now.
Yeah.
The whole committee is Thursday, next week, the 26th at 5 o'clock.
Okay, so I just want to make sure I understand what you have, even though we're all not sure what we're going to end up with. So the 800 and whatever number for the assessment includes only contractual increases and items that already existed that the cost increased. It doesn't include any new items or any increases in budgets other than things that we have no control over. Is that true?
It includes increases in, there's no new people, there's no new software that
The books, I think, maybe.
there is some textbooks, but
But
not a
those were
whole lot of
needed.
them.
Right, no, but I think that's the question. No, I don't
There-
think there was
there-
nothing other. Like you didn't add a position, you didn't add a program.
No positions, no programs, no, we actually cut a whole bunch of it out.
So that amount of the budget,
Yep.
that assessment number, which doesn't include any of the capital stuff,
Right.
is a 7% increase, approximately.
In the assessment,
Yeah.
yeah.
Is that the ballpark? Yes. So
But the
what's
minimum,
driving that increase?
Charlie?
Okay.
Charlie,
There was a question that came up actually last week. When the original budget, version 1, came out, the increase in the budget was $1.1 million. It's not that anymore, but I'm using that as an example,
Yeah.
because I know those numbers much better right now.
Yeah.
The assessments, though, were up 1.6.
right.
There were 3 reasons for, well, there were 3 components of that 1.6. The actual increase in the budget, that was one component, the 1.1. We had $335,000 from the capital fund for Silver Lake that they had, that they used. It was for capital projects, but when you're looking year to year, even though they're not asking for $335,000 for more capital expenditures, they're asking for $335 is still there, they're asking for operating costs. So that we had a funding source in
That's backwards.
we had a funding source in one year that no longer is there, and they still want that much money in their entire budget. The only other place to get it is the 3 towns.
Well,
So-
but you're talking about capital items.
No.
and-
No.
The previous year.
Yeah, I know, I
Okay.
remember that 300,000.
Right, so it's the capital items are no longer there, they're not asking for that, they're simply asking for 335,000 more in operating money. The operating budget went up, 335,000 for that.
Wait. So last year there was 300 and whatever thousand dollars
Mhm.
spent on capital money.
Right.
Items, and
Yeah.
it came from other money.
Yes,
Okay, so this year, we're not talking about those capital items or other capital items right at the moment
Correct.
because we put the capital items on a different
Yeah.
piece of paper. Okay. So this operating budget is asking for $300,000 more than.
more of operating. So the gross number for the budget hasn't changed in that section, but the funding location is no longer capital, it's assessment.
But I'm asking about the things that are requested within the budget.
Yes, I know.
Yeah.
If there's, what is that $300,000
Because it was-
for?
It was, you'd have to go through it line by line. I mean, you'd have to start off with the front sheet that Casey's been looking at, and you can go through each of those things. And you can, instead of 330, if there was a line that said 335,000 capital, it now says 0, but everything else is up that additional amount.
Yes.
And the
But
third,
I'm just really mystified by how a budget can go up that much without anything new being added.
And I think.
well, I understand that, and that is a discussion you'd have to have with Silver Lake.
Right.
And I'm not gonna speak for them on that, that's their budget, I'm sure they would hate me trying to speak for them on that. But the third component of it is the state aid number went down. We got more state aid in 15 than we got in 16.
How big is that?
130 something on that order, so the three,
difference?
pardon?
That's in the,
The difference?
that's in
Yeah,
the email.
it's down.
Yeah.
So the 3 components were, let's say 1.1 million for the overall budget went up. 335,000, now we've switched funding sources, and another 130 or something like that for the state aid decrease. Combined, the assessments went up 1.6, even though the budget itself only went up 1.1.
Right, because you don't have the same resources. So that's what it is. There's no new programs, but because of the state aid and that other factor, that's why our assessment, because if you look at the budget, it's 2.5%.
Yeah, the
But if you
total
look at-
increase in the budget is,
Right, it's
year over year, is
2.5%.
2.5%.
Right,
But the increase in assessments is over 7.
right,
Okay.
So, and.
because of the loss of revenue.
And that's the whole point of whether or not that this is a sustainable budget. Because if you have the same thing happen next year, of a 7% increase in the assessment, Halifax isn't gonna be at a level fund. Halifax is gonna be looking at funding a portion of that $700,000.
A major problem is that, let's look at just the state aid number. Even we say the 3 towns, if we're going, let's say, with the idea that 3 towns should put in a certain amount of money. Let's call it 2.5%. Not saying it's the right number, but let's say it's 2.5%. The state should at least be putting in a number that's at least 2.5% higher than the number from last year. It's not even 2.5%, it's not 2, it's a negative number. So the only other place to get the money from is us. But we're putting up resistance to that idea that we should cover their loss that they suffered for state aid. It's not their fault they're getting less money,
Right.
but we're not necessarily happy to deal with that consequence.
And the other item that's different is that, than the town side of things, the schools have a contractual increase with employees built into there,
Yep.
where the town employees do not. So you gotta make sure that you're aware of that difference.
Are you
So you-
talking about above steps?
Yes, they got it across the board, they're getting an across the board increase for fiscal 16.
For Silver Lake, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was the negotiated contracts that we've done.
And maybe you support the idea of step increases, because we're getting step increases on this side of the street, or on both sides of the street at this point, the way I configure it in. But you don't want to extend a general pay increase unless everybody's going to do that. And you might, someone like me might say to Silver Lake, look, we didn't sign that contract. If both sides felt that they needed to give that pay increase, and we don't have the money to fund it, you're going to have to work out inside your own budget how you're going to fund that pay increase, and not come to the towns and say, fund that pay increase.
I think the hard part at Silver Lake is we're dealing with 3 towns instead of just one.
Yeah.
Do you want to go out west and deal with, what, 10?
No! 3's enough, thanks.
Well, when do Kingston and Clinton want to meet,
Town meetings or finance
No.
committee?
you know?
They meet Monday, Plimpton's Monday nights, and Kingston, I believe, is Thursday nights.
Did
We talked about having,
I just didn't know Plimpton gave Silver Lake a direction.
Plimpton's in worse shape than we are. They, from what I can tell, they don't know. They don't have any numbers. So,
And did you get any direction from Kingston?
no.
Or you
But I
know,
represent Halifax, and that's why I'm sitting here and
Yeah.
saying, okay, where's my direction?
Yep.
so,
Well,
good.
I think we were thinking that we need to work together as a group of communities rather than just Halifax. And since our assessment number isn't going up, it's not so much about our number this year as it is about how can we make a plan that's sustainable. So it's really more about communication, right? But we're behind the ball now.
At this point, usually Silver Lake has voted a budget. Because Kingston has put off its finances, we've got a little bit more time. But by state law, we've got to do something by the end of the month.
And you're having your meeting where you're actually discussing it, not on Friday, but on Thursday. Friday's
Right.
a discussion about revenue.
Friday's about the discussion about the Pembroke lawsuit money.
Okay,
And how to spend the ED money.
so we're meeting again.
We're meeting Monday and Wednesday.
Well, what do the rest of us think? Do we want to give some guidance on a number or a percent now, or do we want to try to talk to Clinton and Kingston before next week?
I don't see how Halifax can go beyond 2.5% for the elementary school.
So Silver Lake is looking for guidance right now. What do you think about Silver Lake?
Yeah, I prefer to wait until John has talked with John, Gordon has talked to John Tuffy, so that we have a firmer figure for their assessment request.
I think I said this the other night. I mean, if we want to just look at this year, certainly we're super happy that it's been level funded, and if we use the philosophy we can get by this year, so it should just be, then we should support it. But I think what we
That's
need
right.
to do is project it out a little bit to say there is a chance that that minimum contribution number may change for Plimpton and may affect us. Do we have the extra $100,000 to support the budget? So that's why it's a little different than this year, is that, and again, it's not
No, I
a,
understand.
it's not a, it's unreasonable budget in the sense of the things that are in it.
Oh, I know.
And that's what makes it a very difficult thing. Like, we can't just say, oh yeah, we'll get rid of that. I mean, that's why.
There is
it's
nothing
difficult.
left to say that it's
So what do
okay.
you think, like, what do you think is, you've heard all the numbers, like, what do you think is a sustainable number that you've heard about your community and the plight that we're in?
I understand that you're looking for 2.5. When I look at what is been the average increase in minimum contributions over since 2010, it's a 3.1 increase a year. I don't see any kind of sustainability in what that's saying to me versus what you're asking.
But if you sat on the finance committee, what advice, but you sat here for the last couple of meetings, but if you sat on the finance committee, what advice would you give a school committee person based on the information that we just talked about?
I think right now, I'm struggling, okay? Because I understand where you're coming from. I understand where the finance committee's coming from. But the numbers they're asking for are not sustainable over the long
But
run.
what do you think is, Casey, what do you think would be a compromise? I mean, you've heard about the finances, you've seen this.
Well, I mean,
Right. So what do you think? I mean, you keep asking them, but what do you think?
I think we need to come up with something that's in the middle. Yeah, I know we're having a
Peg would like to say something.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out that when the state pays about, gives us about 50% of the elementary school budget. Our Chapter 70 is just, up or down every year, but about 50%. So when they level fund state aid, that means the town's contribution is not just 2.5%, it's more like 5%, even though your budget's only going up 2.5%. Because the other half, we have no control over. This is what the state sends us. That means that we're dipping into the 2.5% that really other departments think that they should have access to. So it makes it difficult when the state, see, that's why I kind of think that maybe we should all get together and start really harassing the state to do something about their Chapter 70 reimbursement, even if they don't do anything about their, town reimbursement. At least they owe us for the educational fees. They keep making all these mandates, they don't fund them, and the Constitution says it's their responsibility, and they just look at the ceiling and don't do anything. And, maybe if we got together, because I know that the Mass Association of School Committees is a pretty strong lobby, and we
And
have...
they have been lobbying for it.
Pardon?
They have been lobbying to get the state to do something about the foundation and the Chapter 70 and get it
Yeah.
to where
And,
it
the
needs to
Mass
be.
Municipal Association, we just have to, there's no other solution.
Take 2.5%.
Right, but in the meantime, what you were saying, maybe half, you think that they should go to half, of like 3.5% this year as opposed to.
2.5. I mean, there is such a jump in the minimum contribution that trying to come up with, I understand that, Plimpton and Kingston may not be able to afford the 7% increase. I do. But I don't think you guys understand what the impact of coming down to that
No, I can personally say.
and that's where I'm struggling, I'm not saying that, we need to fund this.
Right.
Would I love to fund this? Absolutely. But if we can't fund it, we can't fund it. But what's the answer in between here? Is there an answer in between? Because I'm hearing 2.5 over there.
No, I understand, but maybe that's what we do. Maybe you say instead of, they don't want 7, you don't want 2.5, maybe you go to the 3.5 and see what that looks like. Because again, we can afford it on paper this year, no question. Their concern is affording it next year, or even if Plimpton switches.
I understand that.
So maybe that's where we start.
But there needs to be a conversation between the Silver Lake members and the...
Well, that's what we're doing, yeah. So what about that?
What about
Hold
what?
on, we have too many conversations going on, so why don't you repeat what you said?
Basically, it's okay, you don't want to see the assessments go up to 7 point whatever percent. Is there a number under that that's not the 2.5?
I have an idea.
Okay. Throw it at me.
So we were just trying to look at, or I was trying to look at approximately how much is our new growth, and I know that fluctuates a lot, and that many years ago it may have been a huge number. But ballpark over the last 2 years, it was between 0.9% and 1.2% ballpark, the new growth part of it. So maybe it would be reasonable to say we'd like to see the school increase be around the ballpark of the 2.5 plus what our new growth is. So that would be a ballpark of 2.5 plus another 1, so 3.
Well, I was kind of counting the growth in that 1.5% of the 2.
Well, see, I was trying to figure out how much it was.
Yeah.
Because
But then you put all your eggs in one basket.
Yes.
No, because it doesn't mean we're spending all of our increase on the school. It means we're thinking about the same percent.
No, what Mel was saying is
Oh.
if you spend all the new growth, you spend that percentage
That
of
1%
new growth.
of new growth and give it to the school department.
No.
All right, so.
I mean, I'm not saying take all the new growth and spend it on the school. I'm saying figure out a ballpark percentage that is new growth and say that same percentage.
If historically,
Already.
Hold on, Beckwood, Charlie.
if historically we've been giving 50% of the money to the schools, we take 50% of the new growth and give
Yeah.
it to the schools.
Exactly.
Or 40 or 60 or whatever it is.
But half of that should go to the elementary, should still be treated
Yes,
like.
well, and that's what I mean, yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, not all Silver Lake.
But the other point that you have to make is we still have other items in town that aren't being funded as well. So you can't just, the reason why I've said 2.5% is because we know that we can go up by 2.5%. We know we can, and I understand what you're saying about the minimum contribution, but I think if we have a better understanding of how that works, this year is a very large increase.
But there have been a few years,
Yeah, there were a
Over the
couple of
years.
years that were 5.5, but there was a couple that were down to like 1.
well, last year wasn't even one. So, and that's what I'm saying, if we look at it over an average of the years, instead of just, you know, saying, okay, this is what it is, it's 2.5%. If you look at what it is, the average over those years, I think that has to play a role in how we look at how we're gonna do this as a town. Because at some point, we're going to get down to a minimum contribution, and we're going to get a jump. And then it's gonna look like we did something bad on the Silver Lake side when it wasn't. It's just the way that the minimum contributions go. So minimum contributions are increasing over $600,000 this year. And we don't have any control over that.
But I kind of think that we found out some new information that we kind of could have had control over that.
Okay, but it doesn't do us all any good at this point, because I'm not sure that we're gonna get an answer before we need to vote a budget.
And I
this
get
is
that,
where
but
I'm
you're asking
struggling.
us to make a long-term policy.
No, I'm not asking for a long-term policy. I'm asking, I'm not
You're asking
saying-
for this year?
I need to know where we need to be for this year.
3.5%.
Peg?
You know, we still, okay. Our revenue can go up 2.5%.
Right.
Money available to give to the school does not go up 2.5% because 50% of that is level funded. What we get from the state is level funded, the Chapter 70, which is specifically designed by the state to support the local schools. So really, 1.5, you know, I mean, 2.5 times 2 is 5%. The town's contribution, even with a 2.5% increase on the budget, is a 5% increase of our revenue contribution, which, you know, dips into, you know, what we have available. And we're talking about a department that has shrinking numbers. I mean, in 10 years, our school population has dropped 157 students. Now, I know they don't all move out a classroom at a time, so it's nice and neat. You know, you might not be able to figure that way, but it's still a reduction in the services you have to provide, and we keep having the annual increases in the budget.
And that's
So,
the
I'm not willing to
elementary.
use any of the new growth, because I need that to make up the 2.5% that I'm telling them that they can have. Or at least, I'm suggesting that we're telling them that we can have.
So what Casey's saying earlier is that if you make her cut from 7%, or the school committee cut from 7% to 2.5%, that's about $600,000 that will need to be cut. Which means a lot of things changing at Silver Lake.
But that, again, goes back to the point that we talked about
No, I know.
the capital fund that was used last year. And we said in the meetings, if you use this money, you're gonna not have this revenue. And that's what happened. And that's half of what you're looking for.
And that's why it's so important not to use one-time revenues. But it happened, it is what it is, and we need to learn from it and move on and come to an agreement. Because I don't know that anybody's gonna come up with a number tonight. And the only thing that we can do, I think, is, you know, you meet with John tomorrow. We have this meeting, which isn't gonna affect your budget on Friday. I mean, because it's gonna be about the Pembroke money and the capital items. And then maybe on Monday, you guys will have learned more from Plimpton, whether they're gonna apply for the waiver. But if they do apply for the waiver, we need to
We need
have
to
a
be realized
contingency
that this
plan
will come
within the
to us.
budget to fund the assessment at a higher rate than what is voted.
I mean, there's nothing that says that Silver Lake can't go back and change what it voted before town meetings. But I think in order to comply with the law and do
So-
what we need to do, we need to vote something at the 26th.
So the one concern I'd have about that is the fact that we cut $88,000 last year
Yeah?
from Silver Lake, and because of what happened in that meeting, didn't seem like the members that were on the board at that time really wanted to make that cut, and that was kind of clear at their meeting.
I can only speak for myself.
No, I know, that's all you.
But I'm just saying, to me, I would not be in favor of voting for a budget that is more than what you can afford to come back and trim it later.
No, what I'm saying is that Silver Lake has to vote some kind of a number by law on the 26th, at our meeting on the
Yep.
26th, okay? That's not, I'm not saying that Silver Lake couldn't come back and with new assessment numbers and everything else and do something different, okay, before we go to town meetings. I don't think there's any one of us on the committee right now who doesn't understand that the towns can't afford what's here. I think what we need to do is say, okay, what is it you can afford? And that's what we're all struggling with.
Last year, you had a big chunk of money that became available because of retirements that you weren't aware of. Well, they don't have to tell you until April, so you still have that, availability, hopefully, that some of your older teachers, because Silver Lake has all the older teachers, some of your older teachers might be retiring, which will give you a little bit of breathing room.
I don't think that they thought so for this year.
Yeah.
We haven't heard any.
Yeah, Peg, at the meeting, at the last big Silver Lake meeting, John and Joy and Christine were very specific. They don't see any retirements coming up this coming fiscal year. Admittedly, it's a very unusual circumstance. They mentioned, what was it, 10 to 14 retirements the previous year, but they don't expect anything.
It'll be a while.
Julianne, Linda, do you guys have any comments?
No, but I have a motion. Let me know when you.
Okay.
I think we all agree that 7 is too high, but I also think that we may not be exploring any and all options, whether it be revenue or changes in the school, creative out-of-the-box thinking, especially with technology and the changes that the school is adopting with technology. I'm not saying there hasn't been discussions, but I think they need to be stronger discussions, and maybe we can generate savings that way. It is 2015, there are a lot of things out there, and I'm not suggesting larger class sizes or anything like that, but we need to talk about it, and it has to be a possibility. So there's a lot of debate back and forth today, and I think that's great, but we need an outcome. And I'm not hearing any possible outcomes, right? So my advice would be take that back and solicit out-of-the-box thinking for savings.
Joe?
Might I make a comment? If you can change your budget later, why not vote something between 2.5 and 7, and then if you're able to increase later, you can vote to increase it later, and if all these numbers change and it allows you to go up above something in between, and then you can abide by the law and get a more realistic number when everybody comes in.
Because we can print a warrant the morning of town meeting.
Well, I think we're definitely, we're gonna get to a balanced budget here, but these numbers are changing. I'm pretty sure we're gonna see a printout for Article 4 listed at town.
Oh, yeah, it'll be salmon color.
I got the paper already in stock.
I hope not.
Did you get it from Joy?
No, that's from a joke from years ago.
Anyone else have any comments?
I move we adjourn.
Oh, hold on, hold on. I was gonna recognize
That's
Julie.
okay. I second her motion.
All right, so we are due to meet at 7 o'clock on Monday, next week, and Wednesday.
Yes.
And I have Thursday. And are we meeting Tuesday this week for the elementary school? Or is that the following Tuesday?
That's the 30th.
Okay, so 3 meetings next week. Okay, all those in favor of the motion to adjourn?
I'll see you.
Aye. Thank you, everyone.
Because we can go around.